as we're running out of time right now. 10 seconds left in freestyle for the VP Racing Fuels Mad Scientist. Big speed right now. Slap wheelie. Flooring it right now. What?
He did a front flip, Ryan!
That was the very first front flip in monster truck history. Throughout decades of the motorsport's existence, no one was able to pull off the stunt before Leo O'Donnell's Mad Scientist in 2017. Obviously, the stunt is exceptionally difficult, as many had attempted the stunt in previous years, but came short. Through the use of video games, however, it should be easier to execute the kind of stunts that these trucks struggle with in reality, right? For some games, it is, but for others, you can hardly do any stunts at all. Thus, we're going to look at every single Monster Jam game that's ever been released and determine which ones allow you to recreate the Mad Scientist front flip. First up, we have Monster Jam Maximum Destruction. This is likely the most different Monster Jam game in terms of its base gameplay. Instead of focusing on racing and freestyle, this game focuses on truck versus truck combat. Quite an odd choice for the very first Monster Jam game. While there is a freestyle mode in the game, you can't do many stunts. Particularly, you can't do a wheelie nor a front flip. Though through regular means, we are unable to perform the Mad Scientist front flip in this game, I did want to show the strange interaction I had with another truck in a previous playthrough. I pretty much need to— Whoa! What was that? Okay, we need to finish him off right now. So, in a way, it may be possible to execute a front flip, but I would rule out any hope of doing the stunt off a ramp like Mad Scientist. Next up we have Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal. This is the first Monster Jam game to have a bigger focus on racing and stunts. With that said, freestyle is generally absent from this game, aside from a few stages of the campaign that prompt the player to complete certain stunts. Now first and foremost, for our stunt, it is possible to do a wheelie in this game. If you simply tilt the control stick down while going forward, the truck will advance into a wheelie. But the question then remains, can we convert this wheelie into a front flip in the same manner as Mad Scientist? I first experimented with this stunt in an actual stadium, like the original stunt. Using the ramps in the stadium, I was able to get the slightest bit of momentum forward that would be required for a front flip. But it just wasn't enough. That said, I wasn't going to give up just yet. I remembered that the outdoor events offer much bigger jumps off their ramps. Certainly, I would be losing some accuracy as far as the actual stunt goes, but perhaps the trick would be possible in some fashion. After wheeling directly into this ramp, I was able to do a partial front flip, landing on my roof, then somersaulting back on all four tires. So I was close, but just not quite there yet. Then, I remembered something. Up to this point, I had only been using my turbo to boost into the ramp, but there is actually a nitro meter at the player's disposal as well. So after a few attempts of using my nitro to get extra air on my jumps, I finally got this. And with that, we can conclude that it is possible to complete the Mad Scientist front flip in Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal. Now for Monster Jam, the 2007 game. Now, this is the first Monster Jam game to have a heavy focus on freestyle, which would certainly imply a stunt like the Mad Scientist flip would be possible, right? While there are a variety of different stunts you can perform in this game, even including flips and wheelies, they are extremely difficult to consistently perform, and even more so to link together. When it comes to the wheelie, for example, from what I've found, your best bet is to just jump off a steep ramp and hope the truck lands in such a way that you can perform a wheelie. But when it comes to the front flip, I was completely unable to find a way to perform the stunt. Now, for the majority of Monster Jam games, the player is able to control their truck in midair. And though this may make the game seem unrealistic, it does make it much easier to perform front and back flips. But this game does not work in that way. Because of that, and the way this game's physics work, doing any kind of flip is going to be terribly inconsistent. Or so I thought. On the Sandboyd Stadium Freestyle, there is a set of cars on a ramp that, if hit just right, will propel the truck into a front flip. And while the truck did go a bit sideways, I was able to get the job done in Iron Outlaw. Monster Jam Urban Assault. This is the direct sequel to the previous game, and it shows. The physics are fairly similar to the prior entry, but with one key change. Air control. We can now freely move our truck in any direction in the air. While that does make front flips insanely easy, we are still looking to get a wheelie into a front flip. I tried the stunt on several different stadium maps, but surprisingly came up empty-handed. I found it quite difficult to get the same kind of momentum off a jump that we had in the previous game. Even if I got some momentum to propel my truck into a flip, it wasn't enough to land on my tires. So I went with Plan B. If we could do the jump from a ramp far enough off the ground, I would have enough time to manually flip forward by simply tilting my stick forward, kind of like Masters of Metal. After trying a couple of ramps on the steel works, I found this ramp on top of a building. If I was able to angle my truck just right and avoid this building right in front of me, while also managing to perfectly wheelie off the ramp, victory would be mine. Everything finally lined up, and I was able to complete the Mad Scientist flip in Urban Assault. Monster Jam Path of Destruction. The final Activision game in the series, they took a different approach to this one. The trucks are noticeably heavier than the previous games and in general feel more sluggish. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as it does make the game seem more realistic, but it does make it that much more difficult to get the momentum needed for a front flip. Trucks cannot be controlled in the air like the previous game, so we have to rely purely on our momentum off the ramp. And right away, I can tell you, we are going to need a big ramp to even come close to performing this stunt. On a smaller ramp, the truck cannot complete a whole rotation, so I tried several different large ramps scattered throughout the game, and just wouldn't work. Several times I managed to get a partial front flip, and even somehow a reverse Mad Scientist flip. But it seems the trucks just can't get enough momentum to do a full front flip out of a wheelie, meaning it is impossible to do the Mad Scientist front flip in Monster Jam Path of Destruction. Now for Monster Jam Battlegrounds. This is where Monster Jam took a step back in the quality of their next couple games, so bear with me for a little bit. Generally, Battlegrounds focuses more on its 2D sections, but I will be attempting the stunt in a 3D freestyle. Now, I was able to consistently wheelie by backing my truck up, then quickly gassing forward while tilting my control stick up. Yet, converting this into a front flip would prove to be a problem. It was impossible to get fast momentum forward while in a wheelie, which would make it difficult to propel my truck into a front flip off of even the tallest ramps I could find in a freestyle. So from what I can tell, it is impossible to do the Mad Scientist front flip, but I did manage to get this odd trick, which the game did label as a front flip. Next up we have the most broken Monster Jam game, Crush It. Published by the same people as Battlegrounds, this is a fairly similar game to the prior. That said, you have a lot more control over the movement of your truck in a freestyle. Once in the air, the player can move their truck in any of the 4 directions, no momentum required. With that said, there is no momentum at all on these ramps to send you into a front flip. You have to manually tilt the stick forward to get the flip to happen. And with how little speed the truck gets, it won't fly very high into the air in the first place. The player can flip the truck rather swiftly, however, just enough even so to complete the flip.
Marvelous!
Now for some more well-made Monster Jam games, starting with Steel Titans. This is another game that lets you control your truck in midair, but only in the front and back directions, which is all we really need for a front flip. So getting a front flip itself is pretty easy, but I can't exactly say the same about wheeling into it. It was tough to get any significant speed on my wheelie going towards a ramp. Oftentimes, my wheelies would be really slow, but eventually I managed to set up my wheelie just right and got this. Not exactly a perfect recreation as only one of my tires actually hit the ramp, but we'll count it. Now for the sequel, Steel Titans 2. This ended up being by far the easiest one out of all the Monster Jam games. The physics are very similar to the first game, but seem to allow me to get speed whilst wheeling much easier. In the very first 5 minutes of attempting the stunt, I managed this. finally the brand new Monster Jam Showdown. Just like most other Monster Jam games, we are able to control our truck in the air, but as we'll see in a bit, that didn't matter so much. First things first though, I did have to set up my wheelie. The easiest way I found to do this was by jumping off a ramp, then aiming to land on my two back tires. Using purely just the momentum of being tripped up by the ramp, just like Mad Scientist, I was able to do this. Well, that's it. 7 out of 10 of the games we were able to do the Mad Scientist front flip in. I think that's pretty good. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.